Good evening again, candidates. Number 3, what is your strategy for improving the transportation options along Georgia Avenue? Will you support refunding the Lower Georgia Avenue streetscape, and if so, where will you get the funds? Would you support expanding the DC circulator bus up Georgia Avenue? How would you improve Metro service, which I take all the time? What role, if any, does biking play in your strategy? Thank you.
Well, I mentioned earlier that the circulator bus is a great idea. I mean, some of the circulator routes have been stopped, but the ones that are successful are still there, like the one that goes up to Woodley Park is terrific for the young people who are coming home from work. I think the George Avenue Petworth Station is key because that's sort of a gateway to this whole neighborhood. Bike lanes are important. We do have those on 15th Street, I know, but every few blocks you should have viable bike lanes. I think that businesses should probably be a full partner in any streetscape funding, and certainly in the development. It has to be a community business partnership because we want positive business development. We also want, the trees and the other amenities that go with the positive streetscape.
Thank you. The streetscape funding is very, very important, and it was through the Great Streets Initiative. There's a major reduction in funding, and that's sending us in the wrong direction. Part of how we revitalize the city, part of how we improve the economy of the city, is revitalizing older commercial corridors. So the funding needs to be available for Great Streets Initiatives and for corridors like this. I would support expanding the circulator. I also, some of the recommendations of the task force, which I agree with, would be working in partnership with Howard University, with Washington Hospital Center, the shuttle services that are there, finding ways to integrate those transportation modes more into the community. There's another question about bikes, and one of the directions, I think the healthy directions we're going in the city, is making it easier and easier for bikes to be an effective, useful transportation mode. So one of the things that we've seen on 15th Street as an example is actually expanding bike access more into the right-of-way, using more of the right-of-way exclusively for bike access. That's something that helps the city in all sorts of ways. And I think I caught all the questions that you had. Thank you.
The key here is that we are working pursuant to a plan called the Economic Resurgence of Washington, D.C. Citizens Plan for Prosperity. It was the plan that we implemented in 1999, 2000, 2002. There was 40 action items. And that's the reason why you find the city in the position that it is today, with the streetcars, with the bike lanes. All this is part of an overall plan, and the city is operating to this plan. When you talk about the finances, so you have to be an inside to know what the numbers are. Right now, I already know that we budget $150 million for a tuition assistance program. We'll only spend $134 million, so there's $16 million available. Dr. Gandhi just announced a couple weeks ago that we have additional $40 million. There was a $240 million surplus. But you have to know how all these things operate, how they interact, and how the budget is actually set up. Right now, the mayor is planning the budget. If it is not in that budget, it will be extremely difficult for the council to change the budget when it comes down. So once again, you have to work with the council members, you have to work with the executive, and we also have to come up with a plan. And planning is the key, because nothing happens in a vacuum. It's all pursuant to a plan.
Thank you very much. I believe that Georgia Avenue should remain a major thoroughfare in Washington, D.C. But safety for our pedestrians and bikers should be taken into consideration whatever we do. The streetscape funding should be a part of the budget for the District of Columbia. We need to find, I would work with the mayor and others in economic development to find the funding for our streetscape and to make our area a lot more beautiful by even expanding the circulator bus. Would be a great way of transporting our seniors, transporting our students, transporting the residents in the district. And I was the chair of 1B when we expanded our bike lanes, when we dealt with the 15th Street and when we dealt with the others. But I've been to Amsterdam and I've seen how the bikes make a difference difference in a city, and how the city will cut down on a lot of traffic, cut down on a lot of financial issues for individuals in the city. And I think we need to look at other cities as well to see what the best practices are in terms of doing that.
I also agree that the Lower Georgia Avenue streetscape should be refunded, and this is one of the things, again, that we worked real closely with the DC Council and with our H Street. It was also a great street. We lost funding a couple of times, or a portion of the funding a couple of times, and I had to stay right on that to make sure that we weren't taken out of the budget. So I think, again, working with your ANCs, working with your community groups is very important in making sure that you not only get the funding, but that you maintain the funding. Where are we going to get the money for that? I think we've already heard a couple of the sources, possibly, but I think there's enough waste in government that if we just basically find where that waste is and do some reform on contracting and things like that, that we have enough money there to provide these services. I support the DC circulator 100%, and on Metro, I think, safety is one of the key issues there, and also keeping escalators working and things like that. So I think there could be a lot of improvements to Metro. I don't know how much DC Council can really impact those. Is it time? Okay, sorry.
So I think in terms of strategy for improving transportation, I think one of the things you have to do is we have to recognize that we need to have a multimodal system. So yes, we need to look at how Circulator connects to various neighborhoods, how it connects to rail lines, how it connects to bus lines, and how we make sure that we've got enough Capital Bike Share stations. I'm a Capital Bike Share member, that it helps facilitate all the kinds of methods of transportation people use. And then we look at, how does development of bike lanes help encourage people to ride bikes? I started riding bike to work several years ago only because there was a bike lane continuous from my home up in Shepherd Park all the way to downtown DC. So if we really think through how we connect all these pieces, we can have a transportation system that meets everyone's needs. And that will support the kind of economic development we want to have along Georgia Avenue, because part of the trick is making sure that you make it easy for people to get on and off the corridor, and that will create the kind of traffic that will support small businesses up and down the avenue. But it does take some planning, and it takes the willingness to advocate for things that work and things that residents actually are using on a day-to-day basis.
Public transportation is very much a green from statehood green issue, and I favor anything that gets more people on public transportation and using bicycles. Now, just recently I saw a very interesting little kind of bicycle, and a small motor-assisted bicycle. If you're down in the flatlands around DuPont and the river and all of that, it's very easy to ride a bike. But if you're an older person and you want to go up the hills, on up Georgia Avenue and up above or northwest and upper northeast, an electric-assisted bicycle would be good, and I would make sure that regulations that allow people to use those lanes would also be for electric-assisted bicycles. The circulator system is a good thing, and where it could be expanded sensibly, I think it should be expanded. So far as improving the streetscape, Casey Trees is helpful in terms of doing some parts of landscaping. I'm wondering if there's other organizations that would also be of assistance. Okay, this turned off? No, okay. Metro, we lost Jim Graham. He used to be on the Metro board, so I don't know what we can do with that.